Ah, yes, the splendor of the great outdoors. Undeniably, one of the best parts of my job is constantly being exposed to the natural beauty of the world around us. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Obviously, mankind has made quite an impact on the planet, but there is such a resurgence these days of going all natural. Maybe not that kind of all natural, but more of a connection to the natural world. Today, we're going to discover eco-friendly alternatives for household items and taste what being all natural is all about. So let's get started. You know, I'm always looking for interesting ways to display ordinary things, like candles on a table for a party. So it's the fall of the year. What's plentiful out there? Certainly apples. You can find them at a farmer's market, a farm stand, you can go to the orchard, or you can just pick them up in the grocery store. What I'm doing here is I'm actually making some little apple candle holders for a festive table decoration. These are really easy to make, and let me just show you. It's as simple as taking an apple that, well, you want to make sure that apple will sit by itself and sit upright so it doesn't roll around on the table for obvious reasons. This one is doing a sterling job. And I have one here that I've just placed a votive candle on the top, and I used a pen just to go around and score the exact diameter of it. And you can see that circle there. Now it's just a matter of taking a little paring knife and cutting directly into the apple, straight in like this, and cutting very carefully around the edge. And then you can take a melon baller, which has a sharp edge, and you can just take out that core of the apple. See how simple this is? You get a nice clean cut edge with this melon baller. Okay, then it's just a matter of sort of sizing the candle. It's better not to make it too large in the beginning because you can always cut it out, but you can't put it back in there. All right, so there we go. You can see that fits just about right with just a little pressure. What I like to do to keep the edges of the apple from shriveling, because we've cut into it, it's likely to dehydrate and it will discolor, as we know apples will. You can take just a little bit of lemon juice, this, and apply it to the flesh of the apple like that. That'll keep it from discoloring, at least for your party. Now the other thing that I've done with pumpkins and acorn squash and things like that I've cut, you can actually take a little petroleum jelly or Vaseline and rub right around the edge, and that will seal this off and keep it from losing moisture and shriveling around the edge. Just another little tip. You see this sits in just like that, and then you can light it and you can let some of the candle wax drip around the edges like I have here to sort of seal that gap, if there is one, between the candle and the apple itself. Now, you can see I have an arrangement here that the colors work beautifully with this. And just imagine these lining a table, all lighted with these beautiful arrangements. It can make a magical table setting.
You put this dressing on the kale and leave it for a while, and it almost marinates the kale, so it's not as hard to chew.
Yeah.
And it's really, really flavorful.
Coming up, we'll learn a tasty but simple recipe with kale. Stay with us. Garden Style will be right back. For over 2,000 years, humans have been cultivating the leafy cousin of broccoli, kale. Up until the Middle Ages, it was one of the most common greens in all of Europe. It's seen a resurgence in recent years due to its hardiness in cold weather and high nutritional value. Today, my friend Allison Chino shows us her super easy, no-cook sesame kale salad. So what's the deal with kale? I mean, it's like suddenly everybody's talking about kale.
Everybody, like, it's a trendy food right now.
It really is, and it's a superfood. That's probably the reason they're talking about it, because it's so nutritious.
Yes, and I love it because it holds up. it holds up really well.
Well, it does. I mean, if you buy it, it'll last a long time in your refrigerator until you use it. And it's one of the easiest things to grow. It's one of the hottest, cool season vegetables. Yeah.
Yes.
So I've already started tearing this apart
Yes.
because I can't wait to make this salad.
Yes.
So what we're starting out with, it looks like, is a nice, good sized bundle of kale. This would be sort of about the size one would find in the grocery store. Yeah, which looks to be about 8 or 9 stems of kale. And what we're doing is we're just stripping the kale leaves off of the stalk. So is it the kale that gets your family excited and the kids excited about this recipe, or is it the dressing?
I think it's the dressing.
Oh,
And
is it? Okay.
especially it's this sesame oil and soy sauce in it, so it makes it kind of a salty
love that combination,
dressing. I'm gonna
yeah.
get started on that. And you put this dressing on the kale and leave it for a while, and it almost marinates the kale, so
Oh,
it's
how
not as
wonderful.
hard to chew.
Yeah.
And it's really, really flavorful. So I'm putting 3/4 of a cup of oil, and then 1/4 cup soy sauce,
Right.
and 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice. So that's your citrus.
Very good.
And then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons cider vinegar.
Okay. Simple
So
enough.
Just simple. Just mix that all together. And I like to mix this salad up in the afternoon if we're going to have it for dinner, so it really, gets the flavor in the leaves really rich.
Now there's 6 of you all, including
Yes,
your husband.
yes.
So 4 hungry children.
Yes.
Is this recipe adequate for your family?
Yeah, it is. If we're having, if it's a side,
Yeah,
it's a side
right,
dish, and
right.
we're having,
Sure.
some chicken or something else with it.
So you're just bringing everything into solution with the oil.
Bringing it all together.
All right. And I'm almost finished with this curly kale.
Yes. And then I put these button mushrooms in it, and they soak up, put them in raw, and they soak up this dressing as well. They really.
So how many button mushrooms, Allison?
That is about 8 ounces, I think, of button mushrooms.
Yeah, so about 3 cups.
And
So you're ready for the dressing.
I think we're ready for the dressing. These I
pull
kind
this
of
up here.
finished these. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you go. You do the honors.
And then you just want to get it tossed really well.
You want everything coated.
You want it coated really well.
And the dressing sort of helps reduce the volume here.
It does.
And if you make it like one day, will you serve it, that evening, or will you even wait until the next day?
I
to
would
serve
even
it?
serve it the next day.
You would, okay.
I would.
All right.
It's
Holds
a little.
up.
It holds up. It's a little. It loses some of the crunch to it.
Right.
But some people like it a little soggier.
Yep, yep.
And then another thing that I add to this salad that gives it a great, great flavor is these pickled onions. And I am using about half a cup
Half a
of
cup.
pickled onions.
Yep. Very good. Look at that. It's beautiful. And we're almost finished.
We're almost finished. You put these sesame seeds on top.
The finale. And how much do you have there? About 1/4 of a
About
cup?
1/4 of a cup. And
Toasted.
I toast these.
Yeah.
Yes, and you just toast them for just a minute in the oven because they burn quickly.
Yes.
So about
No, I've
5
burned
minutes is all you
plenty
need
of
on.
cookie sheets of those for
Yes,
sure. Look
yes.
at that. It's beautiful
Isn't
like
that
that.
pretty?
That is marvelous.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing this
Yes.
recipe.
Thank you for having me.
Mhm. When some people hear that they're going to taste a recipe that is all natural, they go, oh my gosh, this could taste like cardboard. Well, not all natural recipes or foods are that way, most certainly. And this recipe that I'm sharing with you today is all natural, but it is so packed with flavor, you won't believe it. It's an alternative to the classic cheese ball. And you see, this is a recipe that uses no cooked ingredients, very few ingredients, and the flavor level, well, it's through the roof. It's a perfect recipe for friends or family who might be lactose intolerant or may have some sort of allergy with regard to gluten and so forth. Anyway, let's get started. What you want to do is you want to use macadamia nuts that have been soaked overnight. And what I have here is 1 cup of macadamia nuts. I'm going to add them to the food processor. We bring this one in over here. And then to create sort of a creamy effect, I'm using some raw almond butter. I'm just going to put this raw almond butter in here, and I'm only using a tablespoon of this, but once you make one of these, you may want your non-cheese ball to be a little smoother and creamier. If so, what you do is you just add a little bit more of this almond butter. Now, what I'm going to do is just take and put the top on the food processor here and blend this together. Okay, now, after about 2 to 3 minutes of this, get this to the point where it's the consistency of ricotta cheese. It's just amazing what you can do with these nuts. You want to make sure that they are raw, not roasted, and you shouldn't have any salt on them at all. All right, so there we go. So that's the base of this delicious and healthy snack. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to add a few things that really boost the flavor. These are softened sun-dried tomatoes, and I've minced them, just chopping them up with a knife, and I'm adding a 1/2 cup of these. Now you want to make sure they're not the sort of just air-dried tomatoes. These were packed in olive oil. We want to mix this together along with about a 1/2 of a lemon. You want to use a small lemon. You don't want too much here because you don't want to overpower it. So that's about right there. And then some dried herbs, or you can use some that are fresh from the garden. Today we're using dried herbs. Now what I'm going to do is take a 1/2 teaspoon each of oregano, thyme, and a little basil. All right, and then what you want to do is you want to blend all of this together thoroughly, and then just add salt and pepper to taste. Then what you can do is you can then form this into a sort of classic cheese ball. You can see how it all comes together and holds together quite nicely. The idea then is just to put it on a platter. You can garnish it and serve it with some crackers and use celery. That's my favorite. Look how that comes together. It's beautiful. The flavor is excellent, so give it a try. Up next, do your skin a favor. Go all natural, even homemade. It's amazing the things that you can make in your own kitchen. I want to show you how to make a homemade moisturizer. This is a soy oil moisture bar, and it really, really works. And all you have to do is start with a double boiler. You don't have to buy a double boiler. What I like to do is just take a large saucepan like this, bring the water to a boil, and then just take a metal bowl, place it there. And then what you're going to do, you basically just have 4 ingredients in this. You're going to start with 2 parts soy wax, 1 part coconut oil to 1 part cocoa butter, and then you can use any sort of fragrance you like. Lavender's great. I'm going to mix a little lavender with some rosemary, and this is the sort of thing that is so good for chapped hands if you've been working in the garden. It's all natural and very easy to make. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the soy wax. This is hydrogenated soy oil, which makes it wax-like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this melt, and you can see it's already melting. Beautiful. Look at that. So this is what 16 ounces of the wax looks like melted. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 8 ounces of this cocoa butter, and it will melt very quickly. And while that's melting, I'm going to go ahead and add the coconut oil. And you can see coconut oil is an oil, but it's almost in a solid state itself at room temperature. It doesn't really take long for all three of these ingredients to come together. You see, the thing you want to do is just constantly stir it like this. Okay, now with everything melted, it's time to add the essential oils. And I like lavender, so I'm going to add about 6 drops of lavender. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drops of lavender. And then also some rosemary. Those two combined are wonderful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What a great combination of aromas. Okay, now it's time to pour the liquid into the molds, all right? You just want to bring it over like this, and then just begin to dip it out, and you can fill these individual molds. What I like to do is just take a cooling rack and place them on the cooling rack with a little wax paper underneath. And if you can't find some of these molds or don't have them, you can use a little mini muffin pan like this and make great little lotion bars. Now I'll get all these poured up. I'll let them rest overnight. By then they'll be hard. They can be used, or you can give them as gifts. Want to learn more? Visit pallansmith.com for more recipes, garden tips, and blog posts. Stop on by and stay a while. We'll be back right after the break. Albert Einstein once said, "Look deep into nature and you'll understand everything better." Hope you'll find time to spend more time outdoors, enjoying it, and also bringing the outdoors in. Appreciate the bounty and share it. Until next time, I'm Alan Smith. Ah, the great outdoors. I just love it. You know, okay. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Obviously, man has made, okay? Someone in your family or a friend who might be glucose intolerant.
Lactose intolerant.
I'm having a glucose shortage right here.